We have 35 amps outside, guys. Welcome back to the off-grid garage here in sunny hot Australia. They forecasted rain today, but it's actually pretty sunny. And we have again fully charged the battery. We are almost there, 99% state of charge. Today we are going to fully charge the battery bank again. We have done this yesterday, right? We have done this in the previous video, right? Well, the previous video was more the top balancing part of these three battery banks here to make sure they are all on the same level, above 3.6 volts each cell. They're all balanced and everything is good to go. And I have increased the voltage to over 58 volts in the last video, just to bring all these cells over 3.6 and top balance them. But now I have lowered the settings again to 55.2. This is how far I charge my battery banks here, 55.2. And then I allow a bit of absorption. And then we go even further down to 53.6 and let the battery float. Rarely I do this because once the battery gets full, I connect the car or turn on the pool pump. I've got so many loads here. I usually don't leave the battery fully charged for too long anyway. So, as I said, 55.2 will be our absorption, our constant voltage setting. And you can see we are at 54.5. 3.4 volts. All the cells are around 3.4 volts. And the Victron system claims we are at 100% state of charge. 99.5 to be precise. So we can see here the overkill solar says 100%. They can barely see it, 100%. The JK-BMS claims we are at 100%. And the JK-BMS says we are at 97%. And interesting again here that the overkill battery takes only 3 amps, while the JK-BMS takes over 8 amps. And the JK-BMS takes only around 2.5, 3 amps or something. Because we still have the 20% mismatch in here. So this is not very accurate. But yeah, deviation 10 millivolt, 9 millivolt, 22 millivolt. I still got the active balancer connected to these two batteries. This one has its own active balancer. And we just need to wait until the battery voltage rises a little bit further. I still have all the load turned off. I turned on a little bit last night because the battery was sitting on 58 volts, which is a fairly high voltage, and I don't want to stress the battery with high voltages. So I turned on the pool pump for a couple of hours just to discharge it by 1.5, 2 kilowatt hours or so. Out of 44 kilowatt hours, right? That is insane. But again, you can see how nicely these battery banks are balancing now with the current, yeah? Each battery bank has its individual BMS and takes the energy it needs to keep the cells at this specific voltage. And in this case, the JK-BMS takes a bit more energy than the other two. Well, this one is also our highest capacity battery, 304 ampere hours, and these two have only 280 ampere hours. Okay, let's keep charging and see what's happening. And I think it is fairly important that you observe what your battery banks or your battery is doing once it gets fully charged. Just in case you're not at home, you cannot monitor single cell voltages with the BMS app, and you are just away from home and you want to make sure nothing happens, nothing bad happens, everything is working as you designed it. The BMS is there, the charge controllers turn off at the right time, and everything is working as it should be. And hence, with this new system now, 3 battery banks, I will make sure if I'm not at home and the battery gets fully charged, nothing happens, everything is under control. And at some stage, I will probably do the same at the bottom level as well, once we fully discharge this battery here. And then observe when the BMSs turn off single battery banks, then if they are getting too low. This is all part of the normal test procedures you do when you have a battery. Fully charge them really to the max and see what's happening, and then fully discharge as well. It is not only peace of mind, but it's also for the sake of safety. You want to make sure, you want to know what is happening at the very, very top and at the very, very bottom, so this all stays safe. That's why we do all this testing here in all details. Okay, so guys, I think we are coming to an end of our charging session here. We are at 55 volts now, at 55.2. The solar charge controllers will go into constant voltage absorption mode. And we can see the battery voltages are all rising now to 3.4 volts. The deviation is increasing a tiny bit. 17 millivolt on the top battery with the overkill solar. The JK-BMS is already balancing 18 millivolt deviation, and the Heltec BMS has 40 millivolt deviation. No balancing so far with the Heltec, but we've got the active balancer connected as well. And voltage is over 55.1 volts now. Okay, we have now reached the 55.2 volts, and we should see the solar charge controllers going into absorption mode any moment. There we go, it just flicked from bulk to absorption, and now the charge controllers will not increase the voltage any higher than 55.2, which is 3.45 volt per cell, if they are all 100% balanced. Okay, and here we can see on the left hand side the overkill BMS, which is still charging with 1 amp, and we've got 27 millivolt deviation. You can see the balancer has kicked in of the BMS, but in addition we also have the active balancer running here. But the active balancer will not do too much at the moment because the deviation is so small. The current will be very limited. It may be only 100 milliamps, 150, 200 milliamps between the cells now, in addition to what the BMS can do. And of course the JK-BMS here has already balanced the cells down to 12 millivolts, 13 millivolts, and it discharges the cells with 2 amps and then transfers this energy into another cell with a lower voltage. And the Heltec BMS, we can see this yellow flash on the battery symbols, and this shows us which battery cells are getting discharged by the internal balancer. And here we can nicely see that all the BMSs, all the battery banks are taking less than 1 amp of current. If you have any additional load now, this will be carried by the solar charge controllers as well and not coming from your batteries. The batteries will stay at 55.2 volts as long as you have set the absorption time. And now the solar charge controllers have throttled down to 77 watts only, maintaining the standby power of the garage here. And you can see there's no current going into any of the batteries anymore. They're just hovering at 55.2 volts, balancing. The JK-BMS is already finished, and we are down to 17 millivolt here in the overkill. Let me have a look. And the Heltec BMS has balanced down to 31 millivolt already, so this is all working nicely so far. And I have now connected here the Bluetti charger to our battery and want to turn this on. And let's observe what is happening with the solar charge controllers. So at the moment we are just maintaining standby DC power, AC power, and nothing else. So I'm turning on the Bluetti now, and you will see we are taking power out of the batteries for the moment until the solar charge controllers have time to ramp up and find the optimal power point again. And then the solar charge controllers will take over this load and recharge the batteries just a tiny bit, what we have just taken out when we turned on the Bluetti. And now you can see all the power is coming from the solar charge controllers, goes directly to the AC and DC load we have, and basically nothing goes into our battery bank anymore. See, both batteries are getting recharged again from the initial peak. And if I turn off the Bluetti again, we will see the same. Solar charge controller still deliver power, and the batteries will take this power for a moment. Yeah, and then basically everything goes back to normal again. Solar charge controllers only delivering standby power now to our AC and DC loads. Batteries are basically turned off. They are fully charged. And this is now the time when you can actually lower the voltage again and go to float voltage. But again, this is exactly the situation I wanted to see today if everything works out once the battery is fully charged. If I'm not at home, if nobody is at home, I just want to make sure everything is working as I designed it. And it is working. So we've got a voltage difference here in the overkill solar BMS of 16 millivolt. Only 3 millivolts in the JK-BMS. It is just an outstanding BMS, really. And 26 millivolt in the Heltec BMS. So they are all totally fine balanced. And there's nothing further we need to do here. So for exactly this testing purposes today, I have changed the absorption time here in my solar charge controllers to 8 hours, because I wanted to see what is happening when the batteries are sitting on 55.2 volts. Well, obviously they are balancing until all the cells are balanced, and then they don't take any power anymore. So we can actually lower this absorption time here to 1 hour, maybe even reduce it further to only half an hour. And if we go back now, we should actually see the charge controllers going into float and the green light turns on, and this means the batteries are super 100% charged, and the solar charge controllers maintain them now at a reduced voltage level, which is super healthy for them. Okay guys, so far this little quick test after the big top balancing yesterday. So far I'm really pleased with how everything works, how everything is designed, and this all is working quite nicely now in combination with the solar and the inverters here as well. So in some of the next videos I will go a little bit more into details how to set up the solar charge controllers, how I have set them up. Could be one of the most optimal settings for lithium iron phosphate batteries. I will do the full screen recording and we go to all the parameters in the Victron solar charge controllers. You can transfer all these information into other solar charge controllers as well. If you have an EP Ever, Midnight Solar, MPP hybrid inverters with built-in solar charge controllers, it does not matter, because you will be able to understand all the data and all the settings and can transfer this knowledge to any solar charge controller regardless what it is. And we will do the same with the Smart Shunt as well as with the JK-BMS and the Overkill Solar BMS, the JBDs and the DALI BMSs. This all will come in the big series here very soon. Okay guys, thank you so much for your support again here, for everything you're doing here on the channel. It is muchly appreciated. And until the next video coming here very soon, you please stay charged and safe. And thanks for watching again. See you then. Bye bye.